Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are finishing the third Psalter. Great.
Bam, we did it.
That's pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Everybody.
I would like you all to know the 100-point show is going away.
The 100-point show's gone.
Is the last time you'll ever see anything like that down there. I'm deleting it now.
The 100-point show.
Am I sure?
Okay,
well, it's gone, but it's
gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's
all
gone
right.
forever. I wanted to do it live. It's ceremonial.
All right.
Yep.
Great. Amazing.
Goodbye.
That wasn't necessary, but
show.
okay.
I feel
Goodbye.
like
We're going to have a funeral
we
here.
started it around episode 30-something anyways.
Around there, yeah.
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 So we killed it around 100 episodes later. That seems fair.
That was fine.
Yeah.
We're not
100
super
episodes
concerned.
for the 100-point show,
That's-
roughly.
Roughly. Yeah.
Yep.
F in the chat.
We are also killing the announcements.
We're going to be doing announcements throughout the show.
And we'll have monthly announcements at the beginning of the new month.
What I like is that we are announcing these things, and that takes away from the purpose of...
People are used to hearing it at the beginning who watch it later, blah, 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 300 something.
We're filling in our audience before we move forward.
Okay.
Yes. And so the announcements, they're going to be
We'll
sporadic.
get through them, yeah.
We'll do them here and there.
Yeah.
Yep. Because there's no need to say the same things every week.
Yeah, there really isn't.
Yep. But
And plus, people usually skip the first, 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I get, so...
That's what it looks
Not
like.
gonna have to be able to. Not gonna have to deal with that, which is fair. So, today we are finishing the third Psalter. We got some interesting stuff to talk about. More stuff with the Divine Council. Once we get to Psalm 89.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have the King James version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version.
We also have the Robert Alter version of the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary.
We have the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews.
We have the New King James.
Yes, we do. We have the New King James. We also have the Old Testament survey from the New Interpreter's Bible.
And the Oxford Companion to the Bible.
Yes, the wonderful Oxford Companion to the Bible. We have Psalms Old and New from Ben Witherington.
We finally used the Old Testament survey.
We did for Maccabees, and if you haven't seen our first stream of Maccabees, you should check that out. I think it was pretty good. It was long, but it was really good. We covered a lot of stuff, and it was very in-depth.
Yeah, flip that on when you're taking a bath or something, and you'll be all good. You might be
nice.
a little pruny when you get out, though. So
we also have the Origins of Biblical Monotheism from Mark S. Smith, and On the Book of Psalms from Nahum Sarna.
Yep. And I guess I'll get us started with Psalm 83.
Yes, Psalm 83.
Why don't we get this one open?
Yeah,
too?
I gotcha.
You can cover that. A song or psalm of Asaph, like most of the psalms in this
The third Psalter, yeah, a good amount of them. Asaph, yep.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo,
See, mine says behold.
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 We're counting that.
We're counting it because mine does say it.
already, actually.
Yep.
Do we usually do a question and answer bit at the live stream?
I mean, you can,
maybe at the end we can, but we can try to answer them throughout the show.
Yeah, occasionally
we
we respond to questions.
I'm
Yeah.
responsible for reading comments at the very minimum if I'm got nothing else that's going on.
Chris is
show-related.
our filter.
Yeah.
So, if he deems a question worthy of answering,
I usually would bring it up.
He's
Yeah.
probably
I'm not
gonna.
too bad about it.
He's probably gonna deem all of them worthy.
no. I only
It's like when did you stop beating your wife? And Chris is like, we have a question for the chat. When
Yeah,
did you
right?
stop beating your wife?
No, but I do remember you reading the chat one time, and they got you to say a naughty word.
Yeah, that did happen.
You said it poorly enough that it wasn't a big deal.
Sure.
But you really should have caught that. We
I really
laughed
should have.
so hard.
Yeah. I was like,
Oh
you know
my
what?
God.
You got me.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's continue. Sorry about that.
Okay. For lo, behold,
Behold.
thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
So for
Is that a real behold?
well, I mean, it was
in his version.
yeah, it's in the ESV.
Should we count it?
Uh-huh.
I'm counting it.
Great. So, for look your enemies rage, the situation of an alliance of surrounding nations plotting an all-out assault on Judah identifies this as a militant national supplication, which would make sense because Erdman's notes that this is a communal lament.
Right. They open it up like, oh, man, help us out.
Yeah, yeah. Many interpreters have inferred that it was actually composed in a time of national emergency to be recited in public worship in an entreaty to God to intervene on behalf of his people. When that might have been remains a matter of scholarly debate, although the list of hostile peoples in verses 7 and 8, which we'll get to, there is some interesting bit on that, as well as the invocation of the Song of Deborah in verse 10, argues for an early date, close to or even within the period of the Judges. I don't know, we'll talk about that too. The mention of Assyria, on the other hand, could be an indication of a late 8th century date, unless, as has been proposed, Assyria in this text is not the great empire after all. Why would it ally itself with these small, mainly Transjordanian kingdoms, but rather a modest-sized eastern nation antecedent to the empire? So we'll talk about the dating for this.
All right.
Yeah, but let's continue.
Yes, we will. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Thy hidden ones. Ooh, what is that?
No, it's just
the guys
against
that
your
are in the hidden places.
it's your protected ones.
Okay.
So the
Makes
Israelites.
more sense.
Yeah.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. It's interesting terminology, right?
Well, I mean, sure, but they're
You know,
all
in modern times,
Yeah.
it's obviously a different connotation.
yeah.
Right.
Not everywhere.
Not everywhere. In America, though. Right. This is the Confederate Psalm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You're supposed to sing it to the tune of Dixie?
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
Oh.
Let's not do that.
One of the psalms, was it, or perhaps just a different reading that was song-like, happened to line up with a tune at one point. Do you remember that?
No, that was First Chronicles.
That was First Chronicles. Okay.
Yeah, and Ruben suggested that we read it as "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Oh, it worked, huh? Oh, man.
Not really,
It was kind of
but we
fun.
tried.
All right.
Yeah, we
Let's
can't.
not do that again.
Let's
I'm sorry.
not do it. No.
Triggered.
I am kind of reading it to Dixie, though, in my head. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek.
So these are the enemies, obviously.
Yes. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot.
Yeah.
Selah.
So
The children of Lot being incestuous rapists.
well, I mean, yeah, this all goes back to
A whole
their
lot.
this all goes back to their what would be the right word? Would it be cosmogony, or would it be they're talking about in reference to their theology on the origins of these people.
Mhm.
So I mean, more broadly, it is mythology,
Right.
But when we talk about Jacob and Esau, kind of the same deal there. Israel and Edom. So although on verse 9 in this version at least, where it says Assyria or Asher, Yeah, that's obviously supposed to be Assyria.
Mhm.
And I guess it seems that the lineage of Lot was Syrian.
Mhm.
That's what it seems like it's saying. But yeah, let's continue.
All right. Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
Yeah, if you remember the slaughtering of the Midianites
Yes.
Yeah. in Numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the verse, the chapter?
I don't remember the chapter. I remember it was closer to the end,
Mm.
though.
As to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison.
So, a note here. Jabin was the Canaanite king whose army, under the command of Sisera, was defeated by Barak, with Deborah behind him, as recorded in Judges 4-5.
Mm,
I barely remember that.
barely.
Yeah.
But I do kind of remember it. Which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. So,
As is tradition.
yeah. Endor, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a pretty cool witch there.
Yeah, there was a pretty cool witch there.
Yeah. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. Yea, all their princes as Zebah and as Zalmunna.
So on all those names you just read, Oreb, Zeb, Zebah, and Zalmunna, these were the Midianite chieftains defeated by Gideon.
Mm.
So this is, kind of a... It's kind of similar to what we read in First Maccabees, honestly. Like when they were recording like all these heroes, right?
Yeah.
So it's
in their
in a
military
sense,
victories.
yeah. So in a sense, it's a little bit like that.
Mm.
So I have some notes here about the enemies. So to emphasize the extent of the danger and to persuade God to intervene, the names of no fewer than 10 states are mentioned. This list contains the names of smaller states that were more or less contiguous to Israel. It concludes with the name of Assyria, the superpower of the time, which had carried the Israelites away into exile, but it was more like an occupation. This list should be regarded as a summary of Israel's traditional enemies and is not as an exact historical list on which an exact dating could be based. The impossibility of dating the psalm on the basis of this list is apparent from the fact that attempts to date the psalm have yielded dates varying from the 9th century BC to the from the 9th century BC to the Maccabean period during the 2nd century BC. There is a strong possibility that the psalm could date from the time when Assyria posed a threat to Israel, particularly during the 8th century BC.
By the way, we didn't plan that, the Maccabean thing.
We didn't.
We didn't.
These
didn't
just seem
plan
to
that at all.
line up a
Nice,
decent amount, though.
synchronicity.
Yeah, yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. Who said, "Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession"? Oh my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Wow. Like, we're going back to that now?
Well, I mean,
Storm god stuff?
well, the whole thing about this section specifically, I think they're just trying to emphasize the power of God over nature, and his, he is nature basically. He is just as powerful. Well, more powerful technically.
Well,
but,
we're back to
whatever.
storm imagery specifically.
That does pop up, sure.
Yeah. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the most high over all the earth. Jehovah?
Yeah, well,
What does it say?
it just says Lord here, but I'm assuming it's just Yahweh. That's my assumption, because of course, the whole thing about Yahweh
and the whole thing is just about how to pronounce the tetragrammaton.
Right.
Yeah. So
I don't know where they ever got Jehovah though, because I don't recall.
Ruben, how
yeah,
many
it was just another hypothesis for its vocalization.
How many names of God did you have to write on the demon summoning circle?
A bunch.
But those were all different names of God.
Right. And
this not just another
Jehovah
name?
would be written with the tetragrammaton,
Right.
which is Yud He Vav He, but the Yud doesn't make a J sound.
Well, it would be pronounced Yehovah.
Right. So why would you?
But they say J. I don't know why.
They used the J because back then you would switch the Y sound with the J sound, I guess, right? There wasn't a J sound, like it's Yosef.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
G's there now, right?
But now the people who say Jehovah, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're just outright mispronouncing it.
Yes.
And they don't realize that?
They don't care. Either way. But yeah, it just says Lord in here. But there is a note on that. He does say it is Yahweh, the God of Israel. Yahweh is not just a powerful national God, but the deity that rules all the earth. Yeah, pretty much stuff we could have already gathered from that. Although I do have some notes here on the section.
Yeah.
Specifically in relation to the stuff from Judges. This strophe recalls 2 episodes from the period of the Judges, in which God as a warrior defeated the Canaanites and the Midianites in order to gain victory over his people. And then, actually, here's something we might want to take note of. Psalm 83 is the last of the Psalms of Asaph, and also the last of what is known as the Elohistic collection, in which the divine name Elohim is mainly used. Although it is interesting that Yahweh is specifically in here, even though they call it part of the Elohistic collection. But I guess other times they used God. It was Elohim? Okay. Either way.
Well, all right then. That's the end of Psalm 83. If
Yes,
you're
yes, it
enjoying
is.
the stream so far, you should
Drop a like.
yeah.
Share, subscribe, all that neat stuff.
Yep. Share it with your friends, family, neighbors, countrymen, ex-wives, estranged children.
All the people and animals you find important in your life.
Yeah, you know what? You should if you have a dog, you should take some flyers, Milwaukee Atheists, and you should
pass it out.
You should write down the URL on the flyers to our stream. Send out your dog and have it drop flyers at everybody's doorstep.
Ruben, you're insane.
Yep.
Yeah, do that. Don't do that. So that was Psalm 83. Let's hop right into Psalm 84.
Okay.
To the choir master, according to the gittith, another one of those musical instruments we don't know, a psalm of the sons of Korah. If you remember Korah's rebellion,
Yes.
perhaps there's a note on that.
The Korahites.
Yes.
There's no note in altar.
Really?
Nope. But
I don't think there's a note in Erdman's on it. But anyways,
there's no note in Erdman's on it. But if our viewers remember, Korahites, they were not doing the right thing, so they got killed.
as
like a
is
lot of
tradition. I forget which book that was in. Korah's Rebellion.
Wasn't it?
Was it in Numbers?
I think it was in Numbers. It might have been in Exodus.
Well, there was a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't remember.
There was a lot in Exodus.
There really was. But
Like-
the last 6 chapters are devoted to the temple
Right.
or the tabernacle. Sorry.
Then it has to be after that, right? Because the Korahites rebellion takes place after the establishment of the tabernacle, doesn't it?
I don't remember, man.
I believe it does.
The whole narrative about Korah's rebellion is so complicated. It just seems to bounce around a lot, which is why most scholars think that one was a combination, just from 2 originally separate documents, because it's just so weird. Doesn't really seem to follow. But anyways, let's continue here. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts.
So, the term translated as lovely, yedidot, is associated with dode, lover, and dodim, lovemaking, and conveys a virtually erotic intensity in the speaker's longing for the temple on Mount Zion.
Wow.
The King James Version, entirely missing the register, translates yedidot as amiable.
All right, then.
Yeah.
O Lord of hosts, my soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. For the courts of the Lord. So I'm guessing this has to do with, the divine council.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or even the temple itself.
also, yeah, that is true. But when he says, like, the only reason I would say that is because the designation Lord of Hosts followed by the courts of the Lord. Well, I don't know. I guess it could go either way. Even the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young. At your altars, O Lord of Hosts. There's a detail here.
Small birds such as swallows may well have nested in the little crevices of the roughly dressed stones that constituted the temple facade.
So this is about the temple then.
Yeah.
All right.
The speaker wants to be there. It just talks like, yeah.
All right. At your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God, blessed are those who dwell in your house, ever singing your praise. Selah. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. I think there should be a note on the highways to Zion, specifically in Erdman's when I was looking over it.
What verse is that?
The highways to Zion is verse 5.
Is it happy the folk whose strength is in you?
Yes.
Okay, so it says the highways in their heart. If the received text is correct, this most likely means their every thought is on the pilgrim highways leading to Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah, and apparently there's a note here that says the Hebrew lacks the word Zion.
The Erdman says the second part of verse 5 poses interpretive problems and is translated in the NRSV as in whose heart are the highways to Zion. It would be preferable to translate this line as in whose heart are songs of praise, which would fit in better with the immediate context, and especially the expression through the Valley of Baca is another source of interpretive problems, which is in verse 6, and he talks about verse 7 too. So why don't you read those two?
Sure. As they go through the Valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The early rain also covers it with pools. They go from strength to strength. Each one appears before God in Zion.
So it says, without going into detail, we'll go into detail using altars, but one could say that the first part of verse 6 evidently refers to a drought and the second part to water. The two metaphors are used to develop the central idea, namely, yearning for the presence of the Lord. To see God in verse 7 is supreme happiness. It is like traversing a dry valley before finally reaching a spring.
I think there should be a note on the Valley of Baca as well. I remember something on it. I could be wrong.
No, but there is a note about the dating.
Okay, we'll get into that afterwards.
We'll get into that afterwards, sure. But I want to look in altars here. He says, who pass through the Valley of Baca, they make it to spring. Okay. He says, it seems that a miraculous manifestation of divine grace is vouchsafed to the pilgrims as they come through the Valley of Baca on their way up Mount Zion, springs gush. The early rain cloaks it with blessings. The descent of early rain complements the bursting forth of springs. Alternatively, as Ibn Ezra proposes, Moreh could be a place name in parallel with the valley of Baca that would yield the following: Moreh is cloaked in blessings. And in the next verse, it says, they go from rampart to rampart, they appear before God in Zion. It says, rampart is one of the several meanings of the Hebrew hayil, and makes good sense in this context of pilgrims making their way up to Jerusalem. However, hayil also means strength, and to go from strength to strength has become proverbial in Hebrew as in English. For they appear before God in Zion. The vocalization could be, as elsewhere, a euphemistic substitution for they see God, although the usual object of the verb, the face of, is absent, and the preposition of el, to or before, is unusually introduced. All this might be the result of tampering by pious scribes.
Huh. I mean, that would make sense. But yeah, with the exclusion of, the face of God, it makes it difficult to say if they physically saw God. Either way. O Lord God of hosts, hear my prayer. Give ear, O God of Jacob. Behold!
Behold.
Behold.
Thank you.
That's our second one.
Yes, it is.
Behold our shield, O God. Look on the face of your anointed. So this anointed, obviously they're talking about, whoever the king is. And behold your shield. Are they saying that they are the protectors?
The reference, as in the second verse it makes clear, is to the king. The pilgrim longing for Zion, which is also the capital of the kingdom, asks God to show favor to the anointed king, but in verse 12, it is God who is invoked as a shield.
Okay. For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly. First of all, we already know from reading the rest of this about the fact, and the one right before it was a communal lament. And you're really going to tell me that he doesn't withhold anything from those who walk uprightly. Mm-hmm. You can't get an is from an ought, right?
Right.
O Lord of hosts, blessed is the one who trusts in you. And that is the end of Psalm 84.
So I've just got a little bit about the dating of this psalm.
Sure.
It says there is no conclusive evidence for the exact dating of the psalm, which could possibly belong to either the pre-exilic or the post-exilic period. There is no certainty about the original cultic situation either, since some exegetes are of the opinion that this is a pilgrim song, whereas others contend that the psalm concerns exiles longing for the restoration of the temple.
Yeah, it's really hard to say with this one. There really isn't enough to go off on.
Right. So we're going to get into Psalm 85 now.
Yes, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please drop a like, because it really or a dislike, whatever, because it really does help us out. More engagement means more views overall.
Saw quite a few viewers. What happened? Come back.
Just relax, Chris.
I'm making a joke. Chill.
So, yeah, and share it around. Subscribe if you haven't.
Well, they must have sent their dogs off.
They must have. You're right.
This is the result.
Yeah.
That's the theory.
Yep, that's my working theory. Please don't.
That song about who let the dogs out, it was you. You did it.
Yep,
Thanks.
it was you.
Anyways, let's start with Psalm 85.
85. To the chief musician, a psalm for the sons of Korah. Again.
Yeah, no note on it, however.
Oof. Lord, thou hast been favorable unto thy land.
Although we should note right away, this is also a communal lament.
Okay. Thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. Ooh, that's bad.
Wait, hold on. The captivity of Jacob, you have brought it back?
Hmm?
That's really weird. Because here is what Altars says. You favored, O Lord, your land. You restored the fortunes of Jacob.
Is there a note?
There is a note. So on the second part of it, the one that we're talking about, you restored the fortunes of Jacob. The Hebrew shavot, or in the variant used here, shavet, when it is coupled with the cognate verb shuv, meaning previous condition, it is precisely the idiom used at the end of Job 42:10 to indicate God's restoration of all of Job's losses. The appearance of the expression in this verse, joined with the idea of God's favoring, of God favoring his land after it had fallen out of favor, suggests that the psalm may have been composed after the Babylonian exile in 586 BCE, though references to exile are not entirely explicit. Quote, turning back becomes a key phrase of the poem. It is used 5 times, including verse 7, where the idiomatic sense in context leads this translation to render it verbally as again.
Oh.
That's the note for you.
But it doesn't say anything about how the King James Version came to this conclusion.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Oh, sometimes it does.
Sometimes it does.
He likes to beat up the King James Version.
He does. I mean, don't we all? But
Yeah.
It's
it's the most perfect one. It's God's translation or something.
Yeah.
for sure. 100%.
KJV only. Right. Thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sin. Selah.
So a little bit more on this actually from Erdman's here. Man, I gotta deal with all this shit. There's so much. Don't want any of the stuff to close, but it probably will anyways. So, little note here. They single out 2 acts of salvation, namely that the Lord restored his land and forgave the sins of his people. This retrospective view probably reflects the situation shortly after the return from the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BC, when the people experienced the Lord's salvation in a very special way. The content of this strophe largely corresponds to the message of the book of Deutero-Isaiah, that's Isaiah 40 through 55, which dates from this period. And there are some other connections with 2nd Isaiah as well that we'll get into in a bit.
All right. Thou hast taken away all thy wrath. Thou hast turned thyself from the fierceness of thine anger. Turn us, O God of our salvation, and cause thine anger towards us to cease. Wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? Show us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant to thy salvation. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints.
So here's a little note here for actually 85, 4 through 7. So the second strophe is a prayer which relates to the crisis situation of the present. This situation should probably be related to the period of the book of 3rd Isaiah, that's 56 through 66, when the promises of salvation of 2nd Isaiah did not materialize in the way the people expected.
Okay. Where was I? Verse 7.
No, I think you were a little later where you have
Yeah, I was in the middle of a verse.
you in verse 9 or 10?
I'll just start from 7. Show us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, For he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints, but let them not turn again to folly. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth.
So a note on that. So justice and peace have kissed. This bold metaphor focuses the sense of an era of perfect loving harmony. Rashi imagines a landscape in which all Israelites will kiss one another. Hopefully not literally, or maybe it's in the completely platonic way. Actually, you know what? I don't care. Consenting adults, I don't care what you do.
Well, all Israelites aren't adults.
I know.
Oof.
That's why I said.
Yep. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yea, the Lord shall give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. Righteousness shall go before him, and shall set us in the way of his steps. And that's the end of Psalm 85. If
Yeah.
you're enjoying the stream so far, send someone an email with the link. I don't know how effective that'll actually be.
I mean,
Someone important, the guy who sends it to everyone else.
the big kahuna.
Yeah.
All right, either way. That was Psalm 85, pretty short one. So how about we hop into Psalm 86?
Yep, there's nothing in Eerdmans on it. It's an individual lament.
Great. All right. Psalm 86, a prayer of David. It's probably not. Incline your ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am godly.
So, faithful, not godly,
Sure.
in altars. But moreover, it says, the poem begins with a formula of the Psalms of supplication, and this psalm is highly formulaic from beginning to end.
Yeah, like incline your ear. We've heard that a million times. Preserve my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were their
reader-
necks stiff?
Yeah.
Maybe eventually. We'll see.
A reader who has been going through the book of Psalms in sequence by this point will have encountered almost every line of this poem with minor variations elsewhere.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
This is copy-paste shit.
This
if
is
you're
just
doing exactly what we're doing, you're gonna reread this.
This is just the most common themes put together.
This is like Chronicles coming after Kings.
So this is like, if you want to summarize the Psalms, just send someone Psalm 86 because it's the perfect summary, I feel.
Yep. Summary.
Preserve my life, for I am godly. Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for to you do I cry all the day. Gladden the soul of your servant, for to you, O Lord, do I lift up my soul.
This idiom, which occurs elsewhere in Psalms,
Yeah, lifting up my
means-
soul.
Yeah. Means to pray, to implore, to long desperately. My being, nafshi, also has the sense of my very self, my life, breath, my soul. He uses my being.
Sure. For you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. The amount of times that's come up.
Yeah, the epithets for God are borrowed from Exodus 34:6. Verse 15 provides a fuller quotation of God's benevolent attributes spelled out in the same passage in Exodus. So I'm going to get that open in
Great.
the Holy Scriptures.
Fantastic. Give ear, O Lord, to my prayer. Listen to my plea for grace. In the day of my trouble, I call upon you, for you answer me. He's been doing this for a while. I kind of am doubting he's getting many answers.
What?
There is none like you among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. All the nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name. For you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. Interesting way of putting it. Unite my heart.
Unite my heart. What verse is that?
That was verse 11 for me.
Verse 11.
Think that would be 12 for you?
Okay, let me read from verse 10. Yea, his rescue is near for those who fear him, that his glory dwell in our land. Kindness and truth have met, justice and peace have kissed. Truth from...
No. That's the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in 86, man.
I didn't flip it. Okay.
Flip it good.
So I think for you, it should be verse 12.
Yes, verse 12. Okay. 11 says, Teach me, O Lord, your way. I would walk in your truth. Make my heart one to fear your name.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's the one. I guess it's the same for this one.
Yeah.
Is there a note on that one?
There is not a note on that one.
Right. Either way.
And
I wouldn't expect much notes on summaries.
it's also odd that it's the same numbering.
Yeah. Well, that's happened once in a while.
It happens once in a while.
I give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever. For great is your steadfast love towards me. You have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol.
So
yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff to cover in that section in general.
It says nethermost Sheol. The
Nethermost.
addition of the adjective tatia, nethermost or down below, suggests something of the terror of death in this culture oriented towards life in the here and now. Sheol, the underworld, rather like the Homeric Hades, is imagined as a deep pit far below the busy surface, where human creatures, for a brief time, look on the bright sunlight.
Yeah, if you remember the descriptions from Enoch, I'm guessing, it wasn't full-fledged Enoch at this point.
Yeah, check out
But-
most
but-
of Friday Apocryphal podcast if you didn't see that.
Yes.
Does he have any note on verse 8?
Verse 8, there is none like you among the gods, O
Yeah,
Master.
like I know that he's also, the author of this is also
Mm-hmm.
saying that you are the only God.
Right. This line quotes the Song of the Sea, Exodus 15:11. The move from this quotation to verses 9 and 10 traces the trajectory from henotheism to proper monotheism. In the old poem in Exodus, other
makes
gods are imagined as existing but are feeble in power compared to Yahweh,
Yeah.
God of Israel. Here the poet goes on to affirm that you alone are God.
Yeah, exactly. This is definitely a good summary of, going from one to the other.
Yeah.
Oh God, insolent men have risen up against me. A band of ruthless men seeks my life, and they do not set you before them. I kind of remember this, right? Because there was a psalm where they were talking about these animal-like men going after the psalmist. I feel like I remember that. I don't remember which psalm it was, but I remember very vivid imagery for it.
Yeah.
Either way. But you, O Lord, are a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness.
So
not slow to anger.
This is a quote from Exodus 34:6. 34:6 says, the wording's a little different in this, but, and the Lord passed by before him and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness and truth.
I mean, he's definitely not. He's definitely not slow to anger, as it says in the ESV.
Mhm.
Turn to me and be gracious to me. Give your strength to your servant, and save the son of your maidservant.
Your handmaidens' sons. This is a poetic invention often introduced because of the necessity of having an equivalent term in the poetic parallelism for servant. Aved, the word for servant, can also mean, depending on context, slave, just as Ama, handmaiden, often means slave girl.
Show me a sign of your favor, that those who hate me may see and be put to shame. Kind of the same themes of being put to shame, because my God's better than your God.
Shame.
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 Because you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me. So unless you have any notes on those last ones.
No.
Yep, me neither. Do you hear something?
I hear the heavenly sounds.
I hear the heavenly host. I hear it descending upon from the sky.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
We've been wrong this whole time.
I
It's
guess.
Jesus, it's right there.
I mean,
It's on the screen. You saw him.
I
right?
did.
That's proof.
I did
That's
see him.
Proof.
He was right there. There is no denying it anymore. Anyways, that was the end of Psalm 86. I guess Jesus decided to stop in at that point.
Yep.
But that's really his own personal decision.
I don't know. I was expecting it one chapter earlier, but then I'm like, ooh, he's going to mix it up.
Yep, he's mixing it up. So let's if you guys are enjoying the stream, do what Jesus said. Drop a like, share, subscribe. That stuff. Yeah, or a dislike, whatever, doesn't matter. Let's
Yeah.
continue. Let's get into Psalm 87.
An incredibly short psalm.
It is incredibly short, but there is a decent amount of commentary on this.
Okay. A psalm or song for the sons of Korah. So this has been a Korahite episode.
Yeah.
Interesting. His foundation is in the holy mountains.
Yeah, so if you remember, like...
The seven mountains that were in Enoch.
There is that, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But if you remember
There's also those
Mount...
mineral-rich mountains.
Hold on. Do you guys remember, like, multiple references to Mount Zaphon, for example?
Yeah.
There's also Mount Zion. But the note here is, despite the inclusion of this verse set by the medieval editors in the superscription in verse 1, it clearly is the initial element of a triadic line of poetry continuing through verse 2 in semantic parallelism with, quote, the gates of Zion. So is he saying it was an inclusion then on the Holy Mountain stuff?
I think he's...
Or I'm not sure. A third verset, as often happens in triadic lines, is not a semantic parallel, but in this case, a modifier of the predicate loves. This poem is explicitly a psalm of Zion. Its general sense of exalted celebration of Zion is clear, though some of the particular formulations, as will be noted, are obscure.
All right. So this is Zion. Mount Zion.
Yes.
Yes.
Or, City of Zion, but
Oh, okay.
either way.
The Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things are spoken of thee, O city of God, Selah. Any commentary?
Not yet. It's
Oh,
going to be in a little
okay.
bit.
I will make mention of Rahab and Babylon to them that know me. Behold.
Behold!
Oh.
Also, donation.
Thank you very much, Spinoza.
Oh my God, I forgot a pencil.
Oh, man, that's terrible. You're
hold
terrible.
Oh, I guess Chris is gonna go grab a pencil.
Ooh, wonderful.
Amazing.
You know,
Here you
we,
go.
Good for something.
we're
I tried.
It was there for a moment, for a brief moment. It was on the table.
yep.
Either way, yeah, thanks for the donation. We really appreciate it. Because we
do have a drive, an alchemy drive.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, well,
as we said, we'd talk about it sporadically. Here it is.
Yeah, sporadically, we are going to be transmuting some mineral or metal or something into something else.
It's just better to say we're going to be doing alchemy.
We're going to be doing alchemy.
Well, once we hit $666 in the donation drive, and we're
probably getting close to that 500.
Yeah, we're very close to 500.
Yeah, we're at around 490.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't I continue then?
Sure, but let's. You talked about Rahab, and
well, let me finish the verse.
Sure.
I will make mention of Rahab and Babylon to them that know me. Behold, Philistia and Tyre with Ethiopia. This man was born there.
Okay, so lots of neat stuff to talk about here. Very exciting. So, from Alter's version, Rahab, a sea monster, if you recall from some of the other Psalms, is sometimes used as a poetic epithet for Egypt. And the appearance of that name in a list of surrounding nations makes it likely that this is its meaning here. If, as some claim, the speaker is God, then, quote, my familiars, Yodai, would have to be rendered as those who know me. It seems more plausible that the speaker is a Judite celebrating Zion's greatness. And then, even more here, on specifically, this one was born there. Actually, get to the end of verse 5. Okay. Get to the next verse, and then we'll continue there.
And of Zion it shall be said, this and that man was born in her, and the highest himself shall establish her.
All right. So the wording is certainly cryptic, but it might convey a universalist message about Jerusalem. Although, as a biographical fact, every person is born in his or her native place in the surrounding region. All who come up to Zion to acclaim God's kingship there are considered to be reborn in Zion. Oh, and of course, Most High, obviously, El Elyon, or just Elyon.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways.
The Lord shall count when he writeth up the people, that this man was born there. Salah.
So, before you get to this this last part here, actually, yeah, you go ahead and finish it.
As well as the singers, as the players on instruments shall be there. All my springs are in thee.
So, it's interesting that the KJV adds so much there, because Alter's version just has and singers and dancers alike. The simplest way to understand this phrase without tampering with the text is that there is an elided say. Okay, yeah, sure.
They're Levites.
Yeah, because when David was doing the whole divisions thing for everyone.
So it's like specifically like the Levites will be there, right?
Well, yeah, because they were the ones that were assigned to these things.
Yes.
So, the interesting thing about inscribes in the record of peoples, that's kind of like when we were doing Book of Enoch stuff, Book of Life, for example. There was another one that was mentioned. So it's kind of this kind of same theme. So, here I'm going to hand this over to you because I'm going to read a little bit here from Erdman's.
Okay.
Let's talk about the dating first.
All right.
So if this psalm was written during the post-exilic period, as most exegetes rightly suppose, this means that even the destruction of the temple in 587 BCE by the Babylonians and the reconstruction of a far more modest temple after the return from exile did not detract anything from Zion's glory and the love of the Lord for Zion. The psalm may well have been written in that troubled period to persuade the people of God that he still loved Zion and that despite the exile, he was still present with them. And then, talking about all these different nations. The alien peoples who are recognized, the alien peoples who recognized the Lord as God are mentioned here. Rahab, Babylon, the cruel people who destroyed Jerusalem and Judah. Philistia, traditional name for a traditional enemy of Israel. Tyre, the rich and powerful trading city. And Ethiopia, or other in some translations, Cush, the most remote corner of the ancient world as it was known then. When it is said of the peoples, this one was born there, this should not be interpreted literally, but taken as a poetic, hyperbolic manner of saying that these peoples are citizens of Zion and that they therefore also belong to the Lord. It is, however, important to point out that the same expression is also used of Zion in verse 5. The fact that other peoples belong to the Lord does not mean that he has rejected Zion. Zion still belongs to the Lord, so that in Psalm 87, particularism and universalism are not mutually exclusive. The nations even praise Zion as the source of their joy.
I see.
So, kind of bringing everybody into one big happy family.
Yes.
No, I hate it.
There's nothing.
Get out of
for
there.
this.
That's the end of Psalm 87. So,
Yeah, that's the end of Psalm 87.
all the stuff.
Yeah. Let's hop into Psalm 88, shall we?
There's nothing in Eerdmans on Psalm 88. It's an individual lament.
Yep.
Can we stop having individual laments? I just
No.
feel so bad about them. Let's have another group lament. Those are great. Let's all feel bad together.
So Psalm 88, a psalm of the sons of Korah to the choir master, according to Mahalath, Leonoth, a maskil of Heman the Ezraite. That was a very long title, by the way.
Mm.
I've heard longer.
Well, maybe once, I think there was one that was longer.
Yeah, I mean, the Queen of Sheba's full name was stupid long, I think.
Yeah.
Got a note or anything?
Haman the Ezrahite. Scarcely anything is known about the identity of this figure. A choral leader, a psalmist, or about Ethan the Ezrahite, who appears in the superscription of the next psalm. Both are mentioned in 1 Chronicles 2:6 as sons of Zerah from the tribe of Judah. The Ezrahite may be a familial designation derived from Zerah.
All right. Thanks for that. O Lord, God of my salvation, I cry out day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry.
So it's a supplication psalm.
Sure. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draws near to Sheol. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am a man who has no strength, like one set loose among the dead. Like one set loose among the dead.
Yeah, like
Among
a person who
the
is set
dead
loose amongst the
cast-
dead.
Among the dead cast away. The predominant meaning of the adjective hofshi is free, but in a negative sense it is surely required here, and in 2 Kings 15:5, Beit Hafhofshit means the place of quarantine in which those afflicted with the skin disease Sara'at are segregated. The Ugaritic cognate, moreover, appears to be a designation for the underworld. In fact, in verse 9, the speaker talks of imprisonment.
So anyways, it's going down to the pit. Like one set loose among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, like those whom you remember no more, for they are cut off from your hand. You have put me in the depths of the pit, in the regions dark and deep. Your wrath lies heavy upon me, and you overwhelm me with all your waves. Selah.
With all your waves?
Yeah, so I'm guessing like a crushing tide kind of thing.
And your wrath lay hard upon me, and all your breakers you inflicted, Salah. It says, As in other psalms, the descent into the pit of death is imagistically equated with a drowning beneath the waves of the sea.
Sure. That's come up before, I think.
Compare the apposition at the end of verse 7, in darkness in the depths.
You have caused my companions to shun me. You have made me a horror to them. I am shut in so that I cannot escape. My eye grows dim through sorrow. Every day I call upon you, O Lord. I spread out my hands to you. Do you work wonders for the dead? Do the departed rise up to praise you? Selah.
This is a recurrent idea in Psalms. The dead will not rise, will never again be able to fulfill the ultimate human vocation of praising the Creator.
Is your steadfast love declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Abaddon?
Perdition. The Hebrew noun Abaddon, apparently derived from the verb that means to perish or to be lost, is probably a mythological proper name for the underworld, like Sheol.
So, also, if you don't know, Abaddon is the name of a villain in Supernatural.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someday, looking back at this in the distant future, since the show has been canceled, everyone who is alive will not know what you're talking about. But the Bible's still going to be discussed.
First of all, they chose to stop it because if they didn't choose to stop it, they would have just kept going. So I don't really know if you want to call that a cancellation. They're just calling it quits because it's 15 years, man.
The Simpsons.
Yeah.
But these are real people acting.
Simpsons did
like
it.
physically.
Simpsons did it.
Simpsons did
whatever.
it.
Shut up. Anyways, where was I? Abaddon. Are your wonders known in the darkness, or your righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But I, O Lord, cry to you. In the morning my prayer comes before you. O Lord, why do you cast my soul away? Why do you hide your face from me? And this is where, seeing God's face is kind of a theme again. Although he's saying, I can't see it. Why not?
He's John Cena as well.
Afflicted and close to death from my youth up. Wait, that was a weird sentence.
Lowly am I and near death from my youth.
Oh, okay. That's better, I guess. I suffer your terrors. I am helpless.
I am fearful. The Hebrew verb afuna is anomalous and its meaning is uncertain. The translation here follows a proposal by Ibn Ezra.
Your wrath has swept over me. Your dreadful assaults destroy me. They surround me like a flood all day long. They close in on me together. You have caused my beloved and my friend to shun me. My companions have become darkness. I'm guessing also fearful.
You distanced lover and
Oh,
neighbor from
helpless.
me, my friends, utter darkness. For the first part, it says, this clause picks up the idea of verse 9, using the same verb. The speaker, perhaps because he has been suffering from a repulsive illness or simply because his fortunes have met with a disaster like Job, has become an object of disgust to his friends.
Yeah, I was going to say that last part definitely sounded very Job-like.
In utter darkness, it says, utter is added in the translation for the sake of intelligibility. This abrupt statement, just 2 words in the Hebrew, closes the poem on the theme of darkness that has dominated it throughout. The sense is either that the speaker's friends, because they have rejected him and withdrawn their presence from him, are nothing but darkness to him, or that now the only friend he has left is darkness.
You got a friend in me, darkness. You got a friend in me.
Darkness.
My old friend.
Oh, man, there it is. They knew it.
All right. I'm gonna get out some commentaries here because we're gonna be using these.
Excellent. If you're enjoying the stream so far, like, subscribe, share, get a tattoo that says "Watch Milwaukee Atheists" live on YouTube, 1 p.m. CST, Friday and Sunday.
Well, if you get that, we'll share it.
Yeah, we'll share it. If you get that tattoo, send us a picture.
Yeah, we're going to be psyched.
Literally the least we could do.
Yeah.
The very least.
I mean, we could do nothing.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. But it would be nice.
Anyways, let's hop into the final psalm for the day. Now, there's a lot of very cool stuff with this psalm.
Yep.
And we're going to get into it fairly deep.
And it's a fairly long psalm, too.
Yeah.
52 verses.
Yeah. So let's hop right into it.
Oh, jeez.
Psalm 89.
A maskil of Ethan the Ezrahite, which, as Alter noted earlier, there's really not that much on him.
According to the list in 1 Chronicles 2:6, ew, I hate that list. He would be the brother of Heman the Ezraite, mentioned in the superscription to Psalm 88.
You know, when I read that list or was
Yeah,
there.
that supernatural tattoo.
Yeah, great.
Don't you?
Yeah, I do. Here it is.
Yeah.
Does that pop up?
Someone brought that up.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go. Supernatural tattoo. But yeah, besides which,
Yeah, that's really the only note here that I have on that.
Okay, I see that there's a lot.
There is, but that's for the next verse.
Right. You want me to get into it?
Yeah.
I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. With my mouth will I make known thy faithfulness to all generations.
So there's actually a lot here on just the term your faithfulness. The Hebrew word emunah, faithfulness, trustworthiness, dependability in fulfilling obligations, is the key word of this psalm, repeated 7 times in the poem, with an additional 2 occurrences in adjective form. The reiteration of this term also suggests why those scholars who claim that this psalm is an amalgam of 3 different genres are unconvincing. This is a psalm about God's pact with the house of David. That pact didn't go over very well. We're going to talk about it. If one prefers, it is a royal psalm, but it is clearly composed at a moment when the fortunes of the Davidic king have taken a disastrous turn in the face of victorious enemies. Exactly when that might have been is difficult to determine, though many scholars set this text in the period of the First Commonwealth. Not sure what that's about. The psalmist insists on his belief in God's faithfulness to his covenantal commitments in the face of present catastrophes. There is then a logical progression in the poem. First, a celebration of God's cosmic power, by virtue of which he could easily rout all the enemies of the Davidic throne
Why doesn't he? Hurry up.
if he chose to do so. Then the choice of David and his seed by this all-powerful and trustworthy cosmic deity. Then the conditional nature of the covenant, which is contingent on the people's adherence to God's laws, which, when we were talking about the Deuteronomistic history, there was quite a lot of stuff that was turned to conditional. Conditional nature of the covenant. I'm on the next sentence already. And the consequent disaster that has befallen them. And finally, a plea to God to remember how ephemeral man is and to relent him from his seemingly endless wrath against his people and against his anointed king.
Let me think about that. No.
Anyways, let's continue.
Okay. For I have said, mercy shall be built up forever. Thy faithfulness shalt thou establish in the very heavens. I have made a covenant with my chosen. I have sworn unto David my servant. Thy seed will I establish forever and build up thy throne to all generations. Selah.
So, obviously, this is talking about the Davidic covenant the yeah. So
Obviously.
which did not go over well.
No, it didn't.
Obviously.
And it lasted not very long either.
No, not at all.
Yep.
The dynastic promise, not so much. So there's some stuff here from Witherington. So true, this is a promise made to David, but it is made about David's heir. Specifically, it was about Solomon. And herein lies the problem. One of David's heirs, we cannot tell which one, is experiencing quite the opposite of God's favor. But notice as well that 2 Samuel 7, dynastic promise, also says that when Solomon commits iniquity, he will be punished. Could this psalm be about Solomon? Possibly, but it seems more likely to be about one of Solomon's descendants, say a Rehoboam. In any case, the psalm has been made generic enough that it could suit any king subsequent to David who is experiencing difficulties with enemies.
All right. And the heavens shall praise thy wonders, O Lord, thy faithfulness also in the congregation of the saints. For who in the heaven can be compared unto the Lord? Who among the sons of the mighty can be likened unto the Lord?
Yes, so this is some neat stuff that we should talk about. So which verse was that for you?
6.
6? Okay. Actually, yeah, keep going.
Okay. God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about him. O Lord God of hosts, who is a strong Lord like unto thee, or to thy faithfulness round about thee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so before we continue, let's talk about that a little bit. So the council envisaged is a council of the gods. Still another instance in Psalms of the survival, at least in poetic imagery, of a pre-monotheistic mythology in which Yahweh is not alone but reigns supreme over lesser gods. The same idea is reflected in the previous
Psalm
verse.
82, we have the
Yes.
congregation of gods.
Yes.
That was last week.
Yes, it was.
Check it out if you haven't. Anyways, God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in...
Yeah, there is a little bit more. Sorry. This is from Erdman's. So in this first section, the metaphor of the heavenly council is used to praise the Lord, who, surrounded by divine beings, is the incomparable God and ruled over the entire universe. The Lord's creative power is advanced as another reason why he should be praised. That's going to be in a little bit. This section draws on Canaanite mythology and describes the Lord as the conqueror of hostile and chaotic forces. He is the mighty God to whom everything belongs and whose throne is firmly established. So now we can continue.
And to be had in reverence of all them that are about him. O Lord God of hosts, who is strong like faithfulness round about thee. Thou rulest the raging of the sea, when the waves thereof arise, thou stillest them. Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces as one that is slain. Thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm.
Yes. So, and also, yes, John, this is referencing the specific thing to sea and river. Yes, that is specifically to the enemy of Baal. So here is some more notes from Witherington. In verses 5 through 8, we hear about the heavenly court or council, the assembly of the holy ones. In the ancient Near East, outside of Israelite thought, this would be the council of the gods, since all those other cultures were polytheistic. But the psalmist, by Kedosim, probably is referring to the, he says that he's referring to the angels, but if you remember, we talked about this before, how divine ranks pretty much work. They're all still divine beings. Mm-hmm. Some are just lesser than the others.
Right.
So, he's thinking they're talking about angels in the heavenly court. But either way, here they are simply called holy ones, whereas in Psalm 8, for example, they're called Elohim. And I don't think there's a note on the Hebrew in Alter's version. But either way, they're called Elohim. It is not just the psalmist on earth who should praise God, but the very heavens and the heavenly court should do so as well. These beings are also called here literally sons of might. The psalmist deliberately avoids calling them anything like gods here and asks the self-evident rhetorical question, for who among the sons of might, Bibne Elim, can be compared to the real God Yahweh? The answer, of course, is no one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rhetorical question.
Exactly,
Right,
yeah.
Right. The heavens are thine, the earth also is thine. As for the world and the fullness thereof, thou hast founded them. The north and the south thou hast created them. Tabor and Hermon shall rejoice in thy name. Thou hast a mighty arm, strong is thy hand, and high is thy right hand. Justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face.
Yeah, and of course, so when they're talking about their right hand, obviously that denotes strength because, God's chosen one is at his right hand and all that imagery.
Yep.
But also here's a little bit on how similar Yahweh and David are actually, or Yahweh and the king of Israel are actually supposed to be. He's, Yahweh is more of a divine king, hence the title of this video. Another action parallel between Yahweh and the king may be seen in Psalm 89. This psalm parallels the victorious power of Yahweh in verses 5 through 18 with the divine favor that Yahweh bestows upon the Davidic monarch in verses, a little bit later in 19 through 37. The parallelism between Yahweh and the king changes, however, in verse 26, and a different sort of notion appears. Yahweh extends his power to the monarch in language associated in Ugaritic with the god Baal. Quote, I will set his hand on sea and his right hand on rivers. The power of the Judean king given to him by Yahweh, the divine warrior king, is so great that some of Yahweh's own power over the cosmic enemies extends to the human king. As many commentators have observed, sea and river are titles of Baal's enemy in the Baal cycle. The Baal cycle describes a circumscribed or limited exaltation of the storm god. This limited exaltation of Baal may correspond in some manner to Ugarit's limited political circumstances. The cycle was developed under the royal aegis of the dynasty of Nikmadu at Ugarit, ruling in the shadow of the larger powers of Egypt and Haiti. Descriptions of the king couched in the language of the West Semitic storm god hail from the Levantine littoral, Egypt and Mari. These passages indicate that political entities as varied as Egypt, the Levantine coast, and Mari utilized the imagery of the West Semitic storm god to dramatize royal power and legitimacy. It appears reasonable to suppose that, like other sites in the heartland of cult devoted to Baal, such as Mari and the Levantine littoral, as well as the periphery in Egypt, Ugarit also knew the political use of the language of Baal for its king.
All right.
I just thought that was interesting to note.
Yes. Blessed is the people that know the joyful sound. They shall walk, O Lord, in the light of thy countenance. In thy name shall they rejoice all the day, and in thy righteousness shall they be exalted. For thou art the glory of thy strength, and in thy favor our horn shall be exalted. For the Lord is our defense, and the Holy One of Israel is our King. Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One, and saidst, I have laid help upon one that is mighty. I have exalted one chosen out of the people.
Yeah, so in Alter's version, I set a crown upon the warrior. which I think is much more interesting.
Right. It's definitely more interesting. I have found David my servant, with my holy oil I anointed him. With whom my hand shall be established, mine arm also shall strengthen him. The enemy shall not exact upon him, nor the son of wickedness afflict him. And I will beat down his foes before his face, and plague them that hate him. But my faithfulness and my mercy shall be with him, and in my name shall his horn be exalted.
I think, yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how the versing's going here. Just keep reading. We'll get there. Thank you. I deserve that.
Excellent. I will set his hand also in the sea, and his right hand in the rivers. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. Also, I will make him my firstborn, higher than the kings of the earth. My mercy will I keep for him forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with him.
So, verse 25 this is from Witherington. Verse 25 is interesting, using, again, a mythological motif. The idea is that the king controls chaos, emblemized by the chaos waters. God promises to make David, quote, the firstborn, which it would appear really just means preeminent, the highest of the earthly kings, or having firstborn status among the, quote, sons of God, the people of Israel. Verses 30 through 31 warn that there will be punishment if David's offspring forsake God's law and ordinances, but God will never forsake David himself or violate the covenant he made with David.
And so then David went and killed tens of thousands.
As is tradition.
God said, I'm not going to punish you.
Of course. What verse was I on exactly? His seed also will I make to endure forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. If his children forsake my law, and walk not in my judgments, if they break my statutes, and keep not my commandments, then will I visit their transgression with the rod, and their iniquity with stripes. Nevertheless, my loving kindness will I not utterly take from him, nor suffer my faithfulness to fail. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips. Once have I sworn by my holiness that I will not lie unto David. His seed shall endure forever, and his throne as the sun before me. It shall be established forever as the moon, and as a faithful witness in heaven. Selah.
So when we're going back to witnesses in heaven, obviously, going back to Deuteronomy, it's very important to have more than one.
Mm-hmm.
But excuse me. Either way, so here's a note here from Erdman's on this on that stanza we just read.
Yeah.
This section is written in the form of an oracle, with the Lord speaking in the first person, and there are many correspondences with Nathan's oracle to David, if you remember that in 2 Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just thought that was neat.
Yep. But thou hast cast off and abhorred. Thou hast been wroth with thine anointed. Thou hast made void the covenant of thy servant. Thou hast profaned his crown by casting it to the ground. Thou hast broken down all his hedges. Thou hast brought his strongholds to ruin. All that pass by the way spoil him. He is a reproach to his neighbors. Thou hast set up the right hand of his adversaries. Thou hast made all his enemies to rejoice. Thou hast also turned the edge of his sword, and hast not made him to stand in the battle. Thou hast made his glory to cease, and cast his throne down to the ground. The days of his youth hath thou shortened, thou hast covered him with shame. Selah.
So that was for verse 46 or a different one?
45 for
Okay.
me, but maybe
Okay,
46 for you.
Yeah, I have a bigger note coming up a little bit later,
Yeah.
but I want to just summarize a couple of things here. So Psalm 89 describes the experience of a disoriented community, a community which sees a paradox between what God originally promised them and the harsh reality of their present circumstances. And then in accordance with or at least to talk about the dating a little bit here from Erdman's, one does gain the impression that the psalm deals with the Babylonian exile, which resulted in the destruction of Jerusalem and the termination of the Davidic dynasty. The problem which emerges in this psalm is the contradiction between the Lord's steadfast love and his early promises, and on the other hand, the historical fact that the Davidic kingdom had been destroyed. The poet says that the Lord had promised that David's kingdom would endure forever, whereas in fact the kingdom no longer existed, and the king had been defeated and humiliated by his enemies. The poet does not suggest any instant solutions. He merely voices his complaint to the Lord.
Atlantis will never sink. It sunk if it did exist. Sorry, man.
Why are we talking about Atlantis? Let's continue.
You get the joke.
Yep.
You make a claim about a thing existing forever long after it's gone.
Go read the Timaeus.
Yes. The Library of Alexandria will never burn down. Stuff like that. Those kind of claims.
Mm-hmm. How long, Lord, wilt thou hide thyself forever? Shall thy wrath burn like fire? Remember how short my time is. Wherefore hast thou made all men in vain? What man is he that liveth and shall not see death? Shall he deliver his soul from the hand of the grave? Selah. Lord, where are thy former loving kindnesses, which thou swearest unto David in thy truth? Remember, Lord, the reproach of thy servants, how I do bear in my bosom the reproach of all the mighty people, wherewith thine enemies have reproached, O Lord, wherewith they have reproached the footsteps of thine anointed.
So on the note here from Alter, from all the many peoples, Kol Rabim Amim in the Hebrew is intelligible but ungrammatical, and there is in all likelihood a textual problem here.
Okay. Blessed be the Lord forevermore. Amen and amen.
Yeah, and that's just a customary ending to the Psalters. That's not an actual part of the psalm.
That is it is the end of book 3.
Yes.
Of the Psalm.
Yes, it is. How do you feel getting to the end of book 3?
You know, I'm starting to get sick of the Psalms.
Starting to?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you just started?
Yeah. I'm a pretty patient person, but no, I'm starting to get sick of the Psalms.
It's kind of like Ruben's been given a new Pokemon game, but it has several fundamental glitches. Each time he plays the game, he just notices them more and more. Or Smash Bros. Game. Wouldn't that suck?
The Psalms are not the most...
It's abrasive. How's that?
I'd figure out how to exploit the glitches.
Oh, they're bad. They just make it worse.
I'd figure something out.
You fell out of the world.
Either way, I didn't actually think the third Psalter was that bad. It had a lot of cool henotheistic, polytheistic stuff in there.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. There was a lot of cool Korahite stuff that we went over today, and that was nice. And it's not the worst collection of psalms.
I've certainly seen worse, yeah.
Yeah.
And we probably will see worse.
Oh, man. Way to
maybe.
set us
We
up for
still got
that.
2 more Psalters to go.
You know what? We are at 90 next week,
Yeah.
and there's less than 180 psalms. So we're way past halfway.
We already did the math for that.
Yeah. We're almost there.
I mean, the most we can do is really try. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed the stream, make sure you drop a like or a dislike depending on how you felt about the show. Doesn't really matter. As long as you respond, that's good.
Yeah. Our much more exciting show for the time being is the Friday Apocryphal podcast.
Definitely.
Check that out.
We also, I think you should share the stream and the channel and all that good stuff, and subscribe if you haven't.
Patreon.
Yes, Patreon. You can get a lot of cool rewards on Patreon. You could be on the show. You can get books and you can get shirts.
And all our scripts.
All our scripts. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff on Patreon.
But for those of you who are big fans and stick around to the end, you can also check out our Amazon wish list. There you can get us stuff that will actually reference on the show.
On the show or in
properly.
videos. And
yeah,
a lot of good resources there. It's strictly books on there.
We have additional commentaries. If you want to see this show be 2 hours long each episode,
it's getting there.
Yeah.
It's getting there. But
that's okay.
I feel
More
on average
commentary.
our episode length is continuing to increase and will.
Yeah.
Well, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
What else we got? We got Facebook and Twitter. Those are free.
Facebook, Twitter, those are free.
You can follow us on there.
It's also,
Teespring.
It's also free to go around on social media and like show us.
Yeah.
and
Teespring.
about
Also
how-
get a cool shirt.
Yeah. Get wacky and fun t-shirts. We should make a wacky and
Yeah,
fun
we know. We've
t-shirt.
talked about
That's
this.
the fifth one you've recommended. I haven't made any new ones in a minute.
It's been a while, but we have some very good shirts on there now.
Yeah.
Especially with having an actual professional design them. It was good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. The new Behold shirts. So either way, that is the end of the show for today. We got all of our shilling out of the way. All links are in the description if you want to see anything else that we didn't mention. I think we mentioned everything though.
Yeah.
So either way,
if you want, not endless, but more than a reasonably necessary hours of biblical entertainment, go check out our playlists on our channel.
yeah, playlist on the channel. Biblical entertainment for days.
Yep.
Literally. So, either way, until we get a new image, Chris,
Yeah.
we will
It's
show you this, but we will, in fact, say
Friday.
that we will see you on Friday.
Conflicting messaging. Thanks for watching.